Hello, and thanks everybody for joining Jamie and I again on another episode of the Fit and Well Campus podcast. We're so thrilled to have Jennifer Lawrence here with us today. Jennifer is the owner and founder of Grounded Hypnosis. She does a zillion other things too. She is a doula, a lactation counselor, a life coach. So you're in great hands today, and Jamie and I are super looking forward to this conversation with Jennifer today. So thank you so much for joining us. We're really happy to have you here.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I am pumped.
Yeah, we love your energy. Can you tell us, what is hypnosis?
Ooh, right in the meat and potatoes right away. Okay. So hypnosis can be described in a few ways, but I like to say it in the most simplest way. Hypnosis is suggestion. So when people contact me, or if I'm casually in a conversation, they're like, oh, I've never been hypnotized. And I don't agree with that, because we're always constantly in a state of being suggested to. Like if you've ever watched a TV show and when, there's a commercial, remember when those were a thing? And then it's for Doritos. And then you're like, oh, Doritos. Yeah, I want some of those. That's a suggestion, right? So we're constantly in a state of hypnosis. Sometimes we're in a deeper state or a more suggestible state. And sometimes we're in a less suggestible state. So in a nutshell, suggestion.
Nice. Thank you. And that's so true, about there's so many things on our radar all the time that I often think too about when you get a new car and you think, oh, this new car is so awesome. And then you see it everywhere only because it's been put on your radar.
Yeah, so true. So true. And I'm going to add to that. It's also a state of, it's almost a dreamlike state in the sense of, both of you guys drive? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you've ever driven home, again, when you used to leave the house, and you're in that state where you get into your driveway and you're like, oh my goodness, how did I get home? Like, I hope all those lights that I just drove through were green. And you kind of have this disconnected, almost dreamlike state. That's also another state of hypnosis, when you're really kind of just, some people would call it almost multitasking. Like there's something in the background keeping you going while you're consciously just spaced out. So that would be another kind of indicator of hypnosis too.
Jen, that sounds a lot to me like the term autopilot.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, when a lot of times when people are talking about mindfulness, almost like mindfulness is sometimes referred to as like the antidote to autopilot, because we can do so many things without even, like, it's kind of like subconscious, like partial awareness, but we can drive to work, relatively safely and not even really be concentrating, on the driving, but we're maybe lost in thought about what we need to do, or, worries, fears, concerns, all those things that, let take over our mind sometimes.
Absolutely. Autopilot is essentially the unconscious, subconscious, monkey brain, whatever you want to call it, is taking over. It's doing a lot of the work, and it is doing a lot of work. Our brains function anywhere from 93 to 97% is unconscious programming, functioning, habits, behaviors. And so, yes, mindfulness is trying to pull some of that from the unconscious mind into the conscious so that we can look at it and examine it, which is also very similar to hypnosis. The more I learn about other modalities of healing, wellness, the more I'm like, it's all the same. It's just, we put a different label on it.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, would you say that there's any common myths that you'd like to dispel? Jamie mentioned earlier about myth busting. Let's do it.
All right. Okay. So there's a few that I have on my YouTube channel, like the three main top ones, and I probably should have looked this up before, but I didn't. So the first one is that when I talk about hypnosis, people are either like, oh, tell me more. They're intrigued, or they're like, no, I don't want to go there. And the reason why is because they have a lot of fear. They're afraid that if they go into hypnosis, they don't know what closet is going to be opened and what's going to be discovered in that closet. So a lot of people are afraid of all of their demons, their dragons, their secret thoughts are going to be unleashed. That isn't the way it works, unless you were specifically going for that and you've given permission for that to take place. The second is, a lot of people are afraid that they'll get stuck in hypnosis. I don't know if you guys, pop culture Jamie, has seen the movie Office. Oh, well, Get Out, yes.
But there's to the floor.
Right, exactly. There's that, which, my teacup's in the other room.
Good for Angela and I then.
Or is it?
Yeah.
So the other one, the movie the movie Office Space. There's a scene where someone goes to get hypnotized and the hypnotist has a heart attack and dies while the person's in hypnosis. So then he just stays in this land of hypnosis. So you cannot get stuck in hypnosis. That's another one. It just doesn't happen. Eventually you'll change states. Like, you're never ever just happy or just sad. You change states. And the other thing is that I take over your mind. That's another common myth, is that people are like, oh, I don't trust you in my head. And that's not true, but it is really good if you are looking for a hypnotist or hypnotherapist or whatever you want to call it for some help. It is really good to work with someone that you trust and that you feel comfortable and that you feel safe with, because you are, in any type of healing, you are opening up to vulnerability. So it is important to trust the person, but they're not going to like make you dance. You don't become their marionette.
Jen, you mentioned almost like the transition kind of like into and out of hypnosis, like the change of state. So what might, and we might need to brace ourselves for this, but what can that transition into and out of hypnosis look like?
Okay. It can look like this. Nothing, like just a complete, that's right. It can look like nothing or very markedly different. Again, there's kind of different layers, right? So let's do a little example so that your viewers can see what it looks like and what it feels like. And for you on the other side, just notice how aware you are when you're in a state of hypnosis. So again, state hypnosis can also be described as focused concentration. So I'm going to get you guys now to start rubbing your hands. Good. And are you guys ready to have an experience of hypnosis?
Absolutely.
Good. All right. Are you guys safe and comfortable? Yeah, okay, good.
Volleyball chair, does that matter?
No, you'll be fine. So what I want you to do in a second, but not yet, I want you just to keep your hands rubbing, just get that energy flowing. In a moment, I'm going to get you to interlace your fingers, bring your pointer fingers up, and then when I say, you're going to separate those fingers. When you separate them, it's going to be about an inch, inch and a half, or 3 to 4 centimeters. And you're going to imagine, make believe, and pretend that there's 2 magnets on the inside of those fingers. And as they come together, and they will, just allow it to happen. Don't freak out. Don't like pull them apart. Don't scream or cry. Just take a nice deep breath and allow it to happen. So here we go. Interlacing those fingers. Good. Point your fingers up. And separate those fingers. And as you separate those fingers, I want you to stare down that space and just look at that space between those fingers and just feel the right pulling towards the left and the left pulling towards the right, and just want it to happen, will it happen, and just allow it to come closer and closer until they touch. Awesome. How did that feel?
It's fine, because I felt like I was still trying to keep them apart. And I was surprised to see them moving together.
Jamie?
Mine wanted to like close immediately, so I almost resisted at that point. It's happening too fast. So like my mind got in the way.
Yeah.
It seemed when I allowed it to, they seemed to just.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's very true. And you, by almost, you mean you absolutely pulled your fingers apart. If you watch the playback, you truly did open them even wider, only for them to come back together. So I kind of describe this when I'm doing street style hypnosis, which I like to do when we're allowed to do things like that, because I like to do education and kind of show people the power of their mind. So that would be called magnetic fingers, and that's level 1. But I feel you guys both would be good for level 2, especially you, Jamie, Angie, you as well, because you've also experienced it. So what we're going to do this time is, again, we're going to start by rubbing our hands together, and you might need a little space in front of you. So for me, I will poke directly into my screen. So I'm going to just angle myself a little bit. And this time you're going to imagine that magnet is even bigger, even stronger. It's the size of a hockey puck on the inside of your palms. And so I want you just to outspread your arms about 6 inches or 10 centimeters, 12 centimeters. And I want you to just bring them up shoulder height, Angie. And I want you just to stare down that space in between those hands. And I want you just to focus on those magnets placed on the inside of the palms and just see those magnets pulling towards each other. Just feel the right pulling towards the left and the left pulling towards the right. Just allow each breath to just make those magnets even stronger, pulling towards each other. And Jamie, you're going to notice now how strong those magnets are. As Angie, you just allow those magnets to continue pulling and pulling even stronger, even tighter until they touch. And Jamie, as those magnets get stronger, I want you to take a nice deep breath in and just notice how strong they are and how locked they are. And now as you try to pull those hands together apart, just notice the harder you try, the more stuck those magnets become. The more stuck, the more harder. That's right, even more. That's right. And now just take a nice deep breath in and just feel those magnets melt away as your hands drop down and relax in front of you.
That was an interesting experience.
Mm-hmm. So that's what I call level 2. How was that for you guys?
So yeah, like I definitely felt the sort of attraction, and the most interesting thing was when I tried to kind of like move them. It's like there was like a pull back together slightly. It was interesting.
Yeah. How about you, Angie?
Yeah, mine took a little bit longer to come together. And then once like but it all felt natural. Like it wasn't like it just kind of seemed to happen. And like you said, out of body, like I wasn't planning on, they're going to, like you said, probably just that suggestion of them being drawn together.
Right.
Which I'm just going to kind of flip a little bit to when I had done a hypnotherapy session with you in a group setting. And I said to you after, I emailed them, I don't know if I was like really out of it or if I fell asleep. It was so weird because I felt I was so calm, but then I was able to, like, as soon as we were done, if I was asleep, like I woke up, like I could hear everything that you were saying to bring me back. So when you talked about getting stuck in that state, like I think if I was in whatever comfortable, calm state, but I heard you say, okay, and now it's time to draw your awareness back to the room, that kind of thing. So I don't know how what made me just think of that, but I could hear you saying it, but I was also paying attention to my hands. So it was, I can't explain it.
So that's the beauty of, because Jamie, we started this with your initial question of what does it look like? Well, it looks like you just kind of focusing, you just taking some deep breaths, you just kind of calming, relaxing, going into exactly what Angie said, this wonderful relaxed state. Right. And the thing is did I take over your mind? No. You were aware that you were sitting. You were aware that you felt magnets. You were aware that you could hear the sound of my voice. And even at one point, Angie, you heard me talk to Jamie. And so you kind of looked over at your screen and went, okay, am I on track? Yes, I'm on track. I can keep going. So you were still able to discern the needs of the moment, right? So if a fire alarm would have went off, you would have got up and left. You would have been like, my hands. You would have just dealt with the situation. And Jamie, you're so easily susceptible into the suggestion state. You clearly love to go into this, like, the word Zen came to mind because that's what came to mind. But you seem like you'd probably be a junkie for this in the best possible way.
I think too, like I'm in the middle of a 30 days of meditation. So I've been practicing, and like I've really been honing and practicing like my mindfulness and meditation practices lately too. So I felt like very much at ease, just closing my eyes and focusing that awareness. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really cool to watch back when you watch this back, because you can tell you have that muscle. And that's what I joke about being a junkie. It's like if you're building your bicep, you need to tear the fibers and then they heal back and they're stronger, right? You challenge and then you grow. And it's like this with hypnosis, right? The first time you might be like, I don't know how I feel. You challenge yourself, you work through it, you grow. And so you can see that you have that muscle of focus in growth state, so to speak, Jamie, because you're like, okay, you even closed, you know what your body needs, you closed your eyes, you know how you like to work within that environment. And then as you watch back, you'll see you were physically pulling those hands apart, right? So you could feel and see that it was effort. And then once they came apart, it's like when you pull fridge magnets apart and they snap back together. That's exactly what your hands did after. So it's pretty cool to like experience that. And that's one of the reasons why I like to do street hypnosis, because it shows people in a fun, inviting way the power of their unconscious mind. Right? So if I can make your hands come together and stick in a situation where you know you have full control over your body, but if I can suggest to you and you can have that happen, what else could I suggest to you to stick? What other good habit or good behavior or good lifestyle or good thought process would you like to have and have that stick? Right? So this becomes like a wonderful teaching and demo model to show the power of your mind and to show, yeah, this is fun, but it can also really change and affect your life for the better.
I love it. So what would be some of the kind of people that are seeking you out for hypnotherapy? What are some of the things that people are coming saying, hey, Jennifer, can you help me with this? What are this things?
So a lot of people know hypnosis for, oh, I had an uncle or aunt who used to smoke and they use that. Yes, hypnosis is helpful for smoking and weight release. I don't like to call it loss because anything you lose, you try to find again. That's the yo-yo. But I don't like to work with those. They're great and they're helpful, yes, but I really love to work with women and men, but specifically women who are lacking self-confidence, who are lacking self-love, who feel lost and don't know what to do with themselves. They know what they don't want in their life, but they don't know what they do want. And so most people are seeking me out for high levels of anxiety. That is the number one thing that I work with. And for me, I personally believe that anxiety underneath it all is a lack of trust in yourself. You're freaking out because you're anticipating something and you don't know how you're going to be able to deal with it. And to me, that's a lack of trust. So I really, really love helping people connect to themselves and fall in love with themselves and trust themselves and go from a place of like, oh, you stupid idiot, I can't believe you thought that, you're such a moron, to like, it's okay. I didn't get the outcome that I wanted, but that's okay. I'll keep moving forward. Such a beautiful transition. So people with anxiety and people who are feeling stuck, a lot of trauma survivors, I take them from survivors to thrivers so that they can use all of their, I heard this wonderful quote, use your wounds as your medicine. And so that they can say, okay, I've been through this, but I have all of these tools that I learned and that I'm learning, and just allow the process of healing and growth and letting go of all of those things. When I talk to people on the phone, when they first contact me and they say, you know, I need some help. I said, okay, cool. You're carrying a lot of stuff. They're like, I don't know about that. I like to say, if you had to cry a tear for every time you didn't cry, for every situation in your life that you didn't allow those tears out or that frustration, how long would you cry for? People are like, oh, long time. So those are the top things that, as you can see, hopefully, and feel, that just light me up.
And Jen, mentioning that, you know, you help things to stick, and not just magnets, but maybe like good behaviors, good habits, good thoughts. How sticky can those things be, and how long does that stickiness last?
Awesome. Yeah, really good thing. How sticky can they be? It's I give the example of, it's like when you were learning to tie your shoe. It took a little while. Some people really fast, maybe 2 or 3 times they got it. If now at this point in your life, you guys had to think about whether you put the right loop over the left or the left over the right when you're tying your shoe, you would get fuddled thinking about it, because it's not stored in your conscious mind anymore. It's a habit and a behavior that you've learned, and it's now in your unconscious mind. So doing these things, for some people it takes very quickly, and for others it's a little bit longer process, because we all work through things at a different speed, but it's very sticky. It becomes a habit, just like tying your shoe, to the point where you just do these new things and it's just the way you are. Having said that, life does happen and does challenge, right? So let's say you got a cut on your finger and then you need to go and tie your shoe. You might need to adjust or reassess like how you're doing it, but you still have the ability. It's there. It becomes a muscle.
So if I can read into what you're saying, that for some people, they could come to you for, can you help me change this habit, this way of thinking? They come and after 3 sessions, they say, oh my gosh, I find I'm doing it routinely. Whereas other people will say after 11 sessions, okay, now I've got it. Is that accurate?
Yes, to some degree.
Okay.
Yes. The really cool thing about hypnosis is I respect other forms of therapy, talk therapy, CBT, all of those things are amazing. However, it's like if you were looking to buy a Ford 150 and you're like, oh, I hear they sell things at the grocery store, and you went to the grocery store to buy a Ford 150, you would wander up and down the aisles and you'd maybe see a picture of a truck on like a cereal box or something. But you wouldn't be able to find that Ford 150. You need to go to the car dealership for that. So when you're looking to change a lot of thoughts, patterns, behaviors, things that are just happening automatically, you need to go to the place where it's stored. Just like you need to get a Ford 150, you need to go to a place where they're stored. So through hypnosis, it happens so much faster because you're going to the source where it is. So yes, I rarely see people for more than 4 sessions. So it might be a case of like 3 to an extreme situation where we're dealing with a lot of complex things would maybe be 5 sessions. So there is a range, but it's not 3 to 11. It's so much faster, minor tweaks. The biggest thing that gets in the way, the biggest barrier, is people's commitment level. Because we go through life where we'll deal with stuff until it's so uncomfortable that we're sick of dealing with it. And so sometimes what will happen is people will come to see me and they're like, I'm over here, I'm so sick of dealing with this. And then after one session, they'll be like, it's good enough. Right? So all that to say that it's fast and it's effective, but there is a variance for sure. And again, that variance will be indicated by their commitment level and stick-to-itiveness.
So do people then come back? So say after 4 sessions, somebody feels like, okay, this is now part of my unconscious brain. It's now a habit for me. But then do they come back once a month for like a tune-up, or what does that look like?
So yeah, good question. So with my sessions, and this is why I've kind of incorporated life coaching into this, I do hypnosis and we deal with the conscious mind, but we do still think consciously. So I give them conscious tools to help them feel better as well. So having said that, though, some people love the feeling of hypnosis. Some people love that feeling of letting go, whether it's feeling like they're floating, whether it feels like they're, weighed down, but like that cozy weighed down on a cold night with a like warm blanket, or whether it feels like relaxation, kind of sleep-like. So some people will finish their sessions and then be like, you know what, Jen, this feels good. You can never have enough pumping up, right? You can never have enough like feeling good. I'm going to come back for a monthly or 6 months kind of tune up, as you say, or just like bolstering up. Mm-hmm. So some people will come back and just want to do that because they just get that kind of junky, that kind of high, that kind of really feeling good, and then seek it out for that reason versus intense healing.
So if somebody's looking for a practitioner, how do they go about finding a good one? How do you know?
Yes, good question. Good question. Because they're, like every profession, there's really amazing people and there's not so amazing people. I encourage a few things. I encourage when someone's looking for a hypnotist or hypnotherapist, I encourage them to look at their website, see kind of the way they operate. Not every personality fits together, and it's not because anything's wrong with either personality. It's just not a good fit. So look at the website, see how that makes you feel. Following that, like you can't see, but I'm pointing to my gut. Follow that gut feeling. look at their Google reviews, and as all reviews, you know, there's going to be a really awesome one and there's going to be a really like someone who just hated that person and that's their own issues. So take that with a grain of salt, see what people have to say, Google that person's name, because I know in my city specifically, there's someone who has a very shady past. And so if you Google it, you're going to see all sorts of news articles about that person. And so that's helpful to know. And just ultimately, though, follow that gut feeling. So talk with them on the phone, see how they interact, see what kind of answers they give to questions that you ask, and think like, oh, that didn't sit well with me, or oh, it's like she's reading my mind. She knows exactly where I'm at, kind of thing, or he. Yeah. So that would be like the big thing. And the gut, follow your gut.
It's funny that we did a whole podcast on following your intuition. And intuition, yeah, it was good. So yes, hopefully people that are watchers will, or if you need to tune up on that, then go back to watch that podcast with Audra Sherman, our women's university soccer coach. So yeah, great advice. So thank you. And if people want to connect with you directly, what's the best way to do that?
Well, they can go to groundedhypnosis.com so they can check out my website. I have a spattering of presence on social media. So I'm on Instagram at Grounded Hypnosis. I'm on Facebook at Grounded Hypnosis. I'm at YouTube at
Grounded Hypnosis.
Perfect. Yeah. And I just finished a series of videos where I get super raw and vulnerable, because I also realized that sometimes when you're doing work or healing with someone, you want to know that they get you, that they truly understand, not just from a like book learned perspective, but like from a compassion, from an empathetic, from a person point. So I just did a series of videos, 21 of 2021, where I talk about a relationship that I was in with a narcissistic, abusive person and kind of the journey of that, because COVID has really shone a light on some of those relationships and intensified some relationships. And so I just wanted people to know, men and women, because both can experience those type of relationships, kind of like that, A, if you're in one, you can get out. And B, that, you know, even no matter what you've been through, you can heal. So I kind of did this very raw, honest, gritty, if you will, series of videos there. So if people are interested in kind of knowing some of like, why does that person stay with them? Or, oh my gosh, I felt that way too in that situation. And that you can go from an unhealthy relationship to an extremely beautiful, radiant, healthy relationship.
Awesome. Love ending on a note of hope.
Yeah.
If we were ending, Jamie, did you have any other questions that we haven't asked yet?
No, I think we've had a pretty good conversation today. We got hypnotized a little bit, which was like my box to tick for today. So yeah, no, I'm good.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And I found doing a session with you, your voice is just perfect for this. It's the tone, it's buttery, it's welcoming, it's approachable. It's so, I can see why, your clients return to you, because it's, so friendly. Your smile is amazing. So yes, thank you so much for sharing all of your expertise and knowledge with us. We'll definitely be in touch. I know you had mentioned if you are offering a free workshop, that we'll post it on our campus recreation resource library so people can take advantage of it as well. So we're happy to continue to do that. And thank you so much again for joining us, and to everybody that has joined us watching, stay fit and stay well.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.